Joining me now is the head of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge of Ohio. Congresswoman, thanks very much for being with us. What do you think can be done legislatively?
I think there are many things that can be done legislatively, Andrea. I think that what we have to do is have a broader discussion. This really isn't about Trayvon. This is about things like racial profiling, things that we don't talk about in a way that we should. This is about a young kid being killed because he was black walking down a street. We have to have a bigger discussion about race. We have to look at laws that affect negatively young people who are just being young people. And certainly we need to have a total look at our system of justice. It has not been in any way reviewed probably for almost the last 40 years. We need to take a look at laws like Stand Your Ground and other laws. That's not the only one. There are many of them that I think are negatively impacting communities of color.
There was criticism of Eric Holder for speaking out and for speaking of himself, his own experiences, what he's told his teenage son, what he experienced even as a federal prosecutor in Georgetown. This is when he was addressing the NAACP. And there's been criticism of him even raising these issues. How do you address that?
Well, you know, I think that the real tragedy behind Trayvon, not just that a young, innocent black kid was killed, is that we saw for the first time, at least in recent history, a lack of respect, a lack of respect for humanity. We lost all of our values. For us to say that a young man was killed and people to joke about, well, he did it to himself, it was his fault, you know, make jokes about the justice system. I think that we as a nation have lost our way. We have lost our moral compass. And I think that Eric Holder was right. He is drawing back on the experiences that have gotten him to the place he is today, because he understands that this country has had a history of racial bias. And even though we thought we had gotten beyond that, Andrea, as we approach the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, we see we have not.
And that quotation from the NRA, from Chris Cox, the executive director of the NRA, Institute for Legislative Action, was that the Attorney General fails to understand that self-defense is not a concept. It's a fundamental human right. To send a message that legitimate self-defense is to blame is unconscionable, and demonstrates once again that this administration will exploit tragedies to push their political agenda.
Well, let me just say this, Andrea. Did not Trayvon Martin have the right to defend himself as well? I don't have a problem with self-defense. What I have a problem with is murder. What I have a problem with is a kid walking home in his neighborhood who is stalked, who I'm sure is in fear, doesn't know what's going on. He has a right to defend himself as well.
Marcia Fudge, thank you very much, Congresswoman. Thanks for speaking with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure to be with you.